In the deep blackness of space, dotted with the distant lights of far-off stars, humanity's Nova Vanguard silently drifted through the undefined border zone between the Milky Way and the territory of the Vortak Alliance. It was a routine reconnaissance mission, or at least that's what the crew believed, before an alert signal broke the silence aboard the ship. "Captain, we're detecting an enormous energy signal approaching at high speed." The voice of the radar officer echoed through the comms, laced with a mix of anxiety and caution. Captain Artemis Ashcroft, commanding officer of the ship, immediately ordered the activation of defense protocols. From her position, she gazed at the main screen, where the image of a massive warship slowly materialized. It was Xerathion Prime, the flagship of the Vortak Alliance, a species once known for its ability to dominate any battle with unprecedented advanced technology. As the distance between the two ships closed, the atmosphere on Nova Vanguard grew tense. The Vortak rarely appeared without reason. The crew knew that any encounter with them could lead to conflict. A transmission came from Xerathion Prime. The image of Commander Lightar, his proud posture and cold, glowing eyes exuding arrogance, appeared on the screen. His voice rang out, clear and full of disdain. "Humans. You still cling to the tools of the past? Outdated kinetic weapons systems and sluggish ships. Do you honestly think you can survive against our technology?" On Nova Vanguard, the air seemed to freeze. Lightar's words were not only mocking but subtly implied that the Vortak viewed humanity's existence as unworthy of attention. But instead of responding with anger, Captain Ashcroft simply smiled, her calm demeanor putting the crew at ease. "Sometimes, the tools of the past are the best solution to the problems of the present," she replied, her voice carrying a quiet confidence that was just as sharp as it was serene. "But we're not here to debate technology, Lightar. If you want something, speak plainly." On the other end, Lightar chuckled, a sound that echoed ominously through the control room of Nova Vanguard. He didn't respond directly but instead gave an order to his ship, signaling the start of a demonstration of power. From Xerathion Prime, a series of blinding energy beams shot out into the space surrounding Nova Vanguard. They were not aimed directly at the ship but were a clear warning. However, Ashcroft understood the intent behind this display. The Vortak didn't just want to threaten, they wanted to send a message that any act of resistance would be met with dire consequences. In that tense moment, Captain Ashcroft gestured for the communications officer to cut the link. She turned back to face her crew, her gaze filled with resolve. "We're facing an arrogant enemy, but don't let their hubris fool you. Be prepared for anything. If we must fight, we will not retreat." The crew sprang into action, each member taking their position, ready for the worst. In the distance, Xerathion Prime loomed like a ghost, a symbol of overwhelming strength. But within Nova Vanguard, fear was replaced with something else: determination and confidence in their ability to survive. It was a moment where two worlds, two civilizations, faced each other. On one side, humans with what seemed like crude, outdated tools; on the other, the Vortak with their superior, cutting-edge technology. But behind those appearances, the true strengths, weaknesses, and wills of both sides had yet to be fully revealed. The crew of Nova Vanguard knew that this encounter could not only determine their fate but possibly the future of humankind. On Nova Vanguard, the atmosphere in the command room seemed to freeze after Commander Lightar's mockery. On the main screen, the proud face of the Vortak leader appeared, his glowing eyes cold and calculating, as if he could see through every weakness of humanity. The entire crew of Nova Vanguard held their breath, waiting for Captain Artemis Ashcroft's response. No one knew how she would react to the insult from someone whose technology could easily crush humanity. But Ashcroft, with her characteristic calm, took a gentle sip of coffee, her expression unwavering. She stood up and slowly walked toward the center of the command deck, her sharp eyes never leaving the screen. "Lightar, you're right," she began, her voice soft yet laced with humor, surprising the crew. "Our weapons are indeed quite old-fashioned. They are products of an era when we had to fight for survival, not to show off our technology. But you know, sometimes, history knows how to defeat the future." Her words echoed like a riddle, causing Lightar to furrow his brows. He wasn't used to being spoken to like this, especially not with such calmness from a human captain in the face of his overwhelming power. "History," Lightar repeated, his lips curling into a mocking smile. "Your history is nothing but a series of failures and backwardness. You worship these outdated things as if they can save you in the future." Ashcroft laughed, a light but meaningful chuckle. "You're not wrong. Our history is filled with failures. But from those failures, we learned how to stand up, how to fight with what we have. Our kinetic weapons aren't a weakness, they're a strategic choice. I think you'll understand that soon enough." Lightar frowned slightly. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more in her words, a quiet conviction, something he had never seen in any opponent before. However, his arrogance pushed that thought aside. "A strategic choice?" Lightar sneered. "You're trying to hide your backwardness with cheap justifications. Your technology is nothing more than pebbles compared to our diamonds." Ashcroft tilted her head, her expression subtly hinting at an ironic smile. "You know, Lightar, pebbles have one thing that diamonds don't: they can break through the thinnest glass." Lightar fell silent for a moment, as if her words had sparked a thought. But he quickly filled the void with a loud laugh, this time echoing throughout the command deck of Xerathion Prime. "You have a sense of humor, Ashcroft. I must admit that. But in war, humor won't save your life." "Perhaps," Ashcroft replied, her gaze cold yet sharp. "But at least it helps me enjoy the last moments before the unexpected happens." Her words made the Nova Vanguard crew smile briefly. Her confidence wasn't just a shield against Lightar's threats, it was an inspiration to everyone. Inside Xerathion Prime, Lightar leaned back in his chair, feigning relaxation. He ordered his tech team to scan Nova Vanguard, searching for any signs of danger. But the results only made him more smug. There was nothing on the human ship that Vortak technology couldn't handle. Ashcroft, from her command position, quietly observed every move of the enemy. She knew that Lightar underestimated them, and that arrogance was the critical weakness she had been waiting for. Though their technology far surpassed humanity's, their hubris prevented them from seeing the strategies hidden behind what seemed simple. "We'll maintain our distance," Ashcroft said, giving orders to her crew. "Let them keep basking in their arrogance. When the time is right, we'll show them the true strength of the things they think are obsolete." In that moment, a plan began to take shape in her mind, a plan not based on the strength of technology, but on understanding the enemy and the nature of humanity, the ability to adapt and fight to the end. The vastness of space suddenly lit up with bursts of energy from the Vortak warship Xerathion Prime. Sharp streaks of light sliced through the endless darkness, hurtling toward the Nova Vanguard. Controlled by advanced artificial intelligence, these energy beams were programmed to never miss their target. Yet, oddly, the human ship dodged them with astonishing precision. Inside the command room of Nova Vanguard, Captain Artemis Ashcroft calmly directed her crew. Despite the ship's seemingly inferior appearance, every move she ordered was meticulously calculated. "Maintain a minimum distance of 200 kilometers," she commanded. Don't let them realize our true intentions. The energy beams continued to strike, but each impact left only meaningless streaks in space. The Vortak crew aboard Xerathion Prime began to grow increasingly agitated. "What are they doing?" one of the Vortak officers asked, suspicion clearly visible on his face. Commander Lightar stood up, his eyes narrowing as he observed the display. For a species that prided itself on superior technology and strength, it was not only annoying for a small ship like the Nova Vanguard to dodge their attacks, it was humiliating. "Increase weapon power to 150%, Lightar ordered. "I want it wiped out immediately." As the command was executed, Xerathion Prime emitted a blinding beam. A massive concentrated energy blast shot toward the Nova Vanguard, far surpassing any attack made before. But what no one expected happened. The Nova Vanguard didn't try to dodge. Instead, the ship suddenly rotated its nose, facing directly into the energy stream. A volley of metal projectiles was fired from the kinetic cannon, speeding away faster than the speed of sound. These projectiles weren't special, just solid metal blocks, designed with an ancient blueprint. When the energy beam from Xerathion Prime collided with the metal projectiles, space seemed to tremble with a series of unexpected reactions. The energy field surrounding Xerathion Prime, once thought to be impenetrable, suddenly became unstable. Flickering flashes of light erupted, and then, the defense system of Xerathion Prime completely collapsed. "What's happening?" Lightar screamed, panic evident in his voice. The Vortak officers scrambled to check their data. One stammered, "Commander, their metal projectiles caused an unexpected physical reaction. Our energy shield wasn't designed to handle this kind of attack." Inside Nova Vanguard, Ashcroft observed the enemy's confusion through the display, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "That's the flaw of overly complex technology," she said, almost explaining it to her crew. "They don't account for the seemingly simple things, and that's why they weren't prepared for it." The tactic Ashcroft employed was the result of decades of research and observations of past battles with the Vortak. The Vortak energy shields were designed to absorb or deflect energy-based weapons, something they believed all modern civilizations used. However, when faced with kinetic projectiles, which create direct pressure and induce unstable oscillations in the energy field, their defense system was utterly useless. "Fire all kinetic cannons," Ashcroft ordered. "Let them see that sometimes, simplicity is the one thing they can't defeat." Another barrage of metal projectiles was launched from Nova Vanguard, all aimed at weak points on Xerathion Prime's hull. Without the energy defense system, the massive Vortak warship suddenly became vulnerable. Small explosions began to appear across its surface, gradually spreading into larger fires. Lightar stared at the scene in disbelief. He never imagined that humans, with their despised technology, could figure out how to bring down one of the strongest defense systems of the Vortak Alliance. "Retreat!" Lightar ordered, his voice filled with rage. "All units, retreat immediately." Inside Nova Vanguard, a round of applause erupted as Captain Ashcroft declared victory. But she didn't let the celebration last long. "Stay alert," she said, her voice stern. "This was just one battle. The real war is still ahead." As Xerathion Prime and the Vortak ships withdrew from the area, Ashcroft turned back to the screen, which now displayed the stillness of space. She knew that this battle had sent a message: humanity, though underestimated, could still fight and win, as long as they never lost their creativity and will to survive. The vastness of space was immersed in silence as the Vortak warships quickly withdrew, leaving behind only faint streaks of light. On the Nova Vanguard, Captain Artemis Ashcroft stood before the large display screen, her sharp gaze seeming to pierce through the black void of space to observe the enemy. This wasn't just a victory, Captain. Tactical Officer Albrecht spoke up, his voice tinged with excitement. We've just destroyed their pride. Ashcroft turned around, a fleeting smile appearing on her face, but her eyes remained thoughtful. Pride is often the greatest enemy of intelligence, she said. But don't forget, this is just the beginning. The Vortak won't easily overlook such an insult. A heavy silence filled the command room aboard Xerathion Prime. Lightar, known for his ruthless leadership, now stood motionless before the screen displaying the damage to his warship. The energy shield, the pride of Vortak technology, had been completely destroyed by primitive metal projectiles. A trembling subordinate officer reported, "Commander, our losses are undeniable. We no longer have the ability to defend against weapons like that, if they continue attacking." Lightar clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Anger mixed with confusion in his mind. How could such a lesser species like humans cause this level of destruction? Immediately summon the Strategic Council, Lightar ordered, his voice heavy. We need to understand what happened and how to regain the upper hand. Meanwhile, aboard Nova Vanguard, Ashcroft began a private meeting with her strategy team. While their victory over Xerathion Prime was a triumph, she knew this only made the enemy more dangerous. The Vortak are not fools, Ashcroft said, her eyes scanning each person in the room. They're confident in their technology, but this failure will force them to rethink. They won't make the same mistake twice. But, Captain, Chief Engineer Harker spoke up. We can capitalize on this. Their energy shield has proven ineffective against kinetic weapons. If we ramp up production. No, Ashcroft interrupted, her tone firm yet persuasive. We can't rely entirely on one strategy. Victory doesn't come from repeating the same attack. It comes from understanding and adapting. She paused for a moment, then continued, the Vortak made the mistake of over-relying on their technology. But if we do the same with this tactic, we'll fall into their trap. We need a more flexible plan. In the following days, both sides were busy preparing for a larger confrontation. On the central planets of the Vortak Alliance, strategic meetings were held non-stop. Scientists and military leaders worked together to decipher the secrets behind humanity's victory. Why would they use such outdated weapons? A Vortak scientist asked, perplexed. That's not something an evolved species should do. That's exactly why we lost, Lightar interjected bitterly. We underestimated them, thinking they couldn't keep up with our technology. But it turns out, what we considered outdated was the biggest threat. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ashcroft convened a meeting with top military and scientific leaders. A detailed space map lay on the table, showing the locations of Vortak bases and areas that could be under threat. The kinetic weapons have proven effective, Ashcroft explained. But what makes the difference is how we use them. It's not about the technology, it's about the strategy. We didn't choose these weapons because they're cheap, but because they fit the circumstances. Technology isn't always the answer, understanding the enemy is the key. She pointed to a spot on the map, where the main Vortak command base was believed to be located. They will adjust their strategy and improve their defenses. But they still have one weakness we can exploit, their arrogance. They've never faced an enemy like us, a foe unbound by rigid rules. In the weeks that followed, Ashcroft and her team began preparing for the next campaign. Engineers and scientists on Earth worked tirelessly to improve the kinetic weapons, adding new elements of surprise to counter every possibility the Vortak might deploy. For Ashcroft, this was not just a technological war but a battle of intellect and will. She knew that to win, humanity needed not only powerful weapons but also to maintain their creativity and adaptability, traits that had allowed them to survive for centuries. As both sides prepared for the next confrontation, one thing became clear: this would not just be a battle. It would be an apocalypse, a final test to determine whether advanced technology or resilience and creativity would be the ultimate power in this universe. In the hours following their victory, Nova Vanguard was filled with a mix of excitement and caution. Pilots, engineers, and soldiers briefly paused their work to celebrate the unexpected triumph, but in the back of everyone's mind, one question lingered: what happens next? Captain Artemis Ashcroft walked slowly down the central hallway, where the sounds of laughter and chatter filled the air. Some crew members raised their glasses in salute, cheering her on. But Ashcroft responded with only a light smile and a thoughtful nod. When she entered the strategy room, she joined her senior officers. A 3D map of the galaxy hovered in midair, showing the locations of the Vortak forces and the areas under human control. "We've scored a major victory," Tactical Officer Albrecht said, unable to hide the pride in his voice. "The Vortak will have to take us seriously from now on." "This victory isn't just about strength," Ashcroft replied, her gaze sweeping the room. "It's a reminder that true power doesn't lie in technology or numbers, but in how we use what we have." She pointed to the map, where the Vortak warships were retreating toward their nearest bases. "They learned a painful lesson today. But what do you think they'll do next?" A heavy silence fell over the room. Chief Engineer Harker broke it. "They'll adapt. They'll change their energy shields to counter kinetic projectiles. Maybe they'll develop new weapons or adjust their tactics." "Correct," Ashcroft nodded. "The Vortak aren't easily defeated. Their biggest mistake is arrogance. But we can't make the same mistake. They'll return, and this time, they'll be better prepared." On the central planets of the Vortak, the atmosphere in the Strategic Council was more tense than ever. Images of destroyed warships, data about unexpected vulnerabilities in their energy defense system, and detailed analyses of their failure were presented before Commander Lightar. "We underestimated them," a scientist said, his voice filled with frustration. "Those metal projectiles, seemingly harmless, broke through our most advanced technology. This is an unforgivable humiliation." "No," Lightar replied, his voice cold. "This is a lesson. The humans didn't win because of outdated weapons. They won because of their adaptability and deep understanding of the enemy's weaknesses. And we will pay the price if we don't do the same." The Council began outlining plans to improve their defensive technology, but Lightar issued an unexpected command: gather every piece of data possible on human military history. "They've survived centuries of war," Lightar said. "They know how to fight even without technological advantages. If we want to defeat them, we must understand them. Understand their mindset." Meanwhile, aboard Nova Vanguard, Ashcroft summoned the crew for a special address. "Everyone," she began, her voice resonating through the large conference room. "Today's victory is proof of our persistence and intelligence. But make no mistake, this is not the end. It's just the beginning of a war where we must fight with everything we have, not just with weapons, but with intellect and willpower." She looked around the room, where the crew members were listening intently. "I want you to understand that technology is merely a tool. We may not have the most advanced weapons, but we have creativity, adaptability, and a spirit that will never give up. That is the true power." Ashcroft paused, her eyes turning sharp. "The Vortak will return. They will be stronger, more dangerous. But we won't face them with just weapons. We will face them with understanding, unity, and determination. Because we are not just fighting to protect Earth, but to defend our very values that humanity can overcome any challenge with willpower and intelligence. Her words left the room silent. A sense of pride, but also responsibility, spread throughout the crew. In the weeks that followed, both sides entered a new arms race. The Vortak rapidly upgraded their technology, while humanity focused not only on weapons but also on studying their enemy's mindset and tactics. For Ashcroft, this was not just a war between two worlds. It was an opportunity to prove that human creativity and resilience could overcome any challenge. And she knew that each battle not only taught lessons to the enemy but also to herself and her team. As both sides prepared for their next confrontation, one undeniable truth emerged: this war was not just about power or technology, it was about how each side understood the nature of war and the nature of themselves. In the shimmering light of distant stars, Nova Vanguard slowly settled into silence after the chaos of the past hours. The space around the ship stretched out like an endless black carpet, punctuated only by the brilliant lights of celestial bodies. Captain Artemis Ashcroft stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the mysterious sky. A hint of fatigue was visible on her face, but it did nothing to dull the spark of determination in her gaze. The crew around her was quieter than usual, as if they all recognized that this victory was not just a testament to strength, but also a valuable lesson. Ashcroft walked over to the main console, where images of the recent battles still lingered like a sharp reminder. The scratches on the hull, the exhausted but resolute faces of the crew, these were all proof of humanity's endurance and courage. She took a deep breath and turned to face them. "We've done the impossible," she said, her voice powerful but also filled with emotion. No one thought Nova Vanguard, a ship not equipped with the most advanced technology, could stand against Xerathion Prime, let alone win. The crew smiled, but no one spoke. They knew that in her words, there was more than just pride. "But remember," Ashcroft continued, her voice growing more serious, "this war wasn't just about the strength of our weapons. It was a testament to creativity, to the ability to see opportunities in adversity. When we used kinetic projectiles, something many would call outdated, we weren't just relying on technology. We were relying on our intellect, our experience, and our resolve." She stepped up to the largest window on the bridge, where the stars seemed to welcome them. "Those stars," she said, pointing outside, "they don't care who's the strongest or who has the most advanced technology. They only remember those who dared to dream and fought for that dream." A quiet, emotional silence filled the room. The crew gazed at their captain with deep admiration. Ashcroft wasn't just a leader, she was a symbol of human courage and intellect. "We don't fight to prove we're stronger," Ashcroft said, her voice calm yet powerful. "We fight to remind ourselves that sometimes, skill and courage are stronger than the most sophisticated machines." Her words touched every person in the room. They understood that this victory wasn't just a validation of human strength, but a reminder of the value of spirit and willpower. Ashcroft turned away, her gaze still fixed on the stars. In that moment, she was not just the captain of Nova Vanguard. She was the embodiment of hope, of the desire to reach for things far beyond humanity's grasp. The crew stood quietly, but within them swelled a feeling that was hard to describe. This victory was not just Nova Vanguard's, it was the victory of all mankind, a statement that, no matter the challenges, humanity would always find a way to overcome. As the light from the bridge dimmed, leaving only Ashcroft's silhouette alongside the distant stars, their story continued to be written, not just by battles, but by courage, intellect, and an unyielding spirit.